All right, you've probably heard the story, right? This legendary, super secret recipe for Coca-Cola locked away in some massive high-tech vault down in Atlanta. It's one of the best marketing stories of all time, this idea of a single magical formula. So, of course, everyone wants to know, what is the secret formula? What's the magical mix of ingredients that makes Coke taste like, well, Coke? But what if I told you the real secret, the one that truly matters, has been staring us in the face this whole time? Yeah, see, it's not the one in the vault. The secret to Coca-Cola's complete and utter global domination has almost nothing to do with what's actually in the bottle. The real magic, it's in two other formulas that the company spent over a century perfecting. And that's what we're going to break down right now. So, this is about more than just a secret formula. It's about the two pillars of a global empire. See, if you really want to get what makes Coke tick, you have to forget about the taste for a second. Their entire empire is built on these two incredibly powerful strategic pillars. One is a formula for its visual identity, and the other is a formula for creating an emotional connection. These are the engines that turned a fizzy drink into a worldwide icon. And I mean, just look at the scale we're talking about here, 2.1 billion. That's how many servings of their drinks are sold every single day in over 200 countries. That is just mind-blowing. You don't get to a number like that by accident, and you for sure don't get there just because your drink tastes good. It's all by design. So let's look at the first part of that design. All right, the unchanging visual identity. This is the first real secret formula. And the key word here is unchanging. Coca-Cola created a visual language that is so strong, so consistent, it's basically a fortress. It's this protective wall around the brand that no competitor has ever been able to breach. And when you break it down, every single piece of that visual identity was created to solve a problem. The Spencerian script from way back in 1886, that was all about standing out. The vibrant red color, that had a very specific job to do. The famous contour bottle, a defense against imitators. And the ardent square, that was to make sure it looked the same absolutely everywhere in the world. None of this was just, hey, that looks nice. It was all strategy. And the stories behind these are just incredible. That Coke Red, we all know, it literally started because they painted their barrels red so tax collectors wouldn't mistake them for barrels of booze. And that iconic bottle, the design briefs they gave the creators, was pure genius. They said, make us a bottle that you could recognize even if you found it smashed into a million pieces on the floor. How cool is that? And make no mistake, the company knows exactly how powerful this is. James Somerville, who used to be their VP of Global Design, actually called the color red the company's second secret formula. Think about that. To them, the color is just as important as the taste. It's this beacon of refreshment you can see from across the street. So what's the result of all this obsession with consistency? Well, this number says it all. An estimated 94% of the entire planet's population recognizes the Coca-Cola brand. That's insane. And that is the power of the first secret formula. But, a pretty logo isn't enough to build an empire. Which brings us to part two, the second real secret formula, selling a universal feeling. This is where Coke went from being a product to being a part of our culture. They absolutely mastered the art of attaching their drink to these huge universal human emotions. Happiness, friendship, celebration. And you can literally watch the shift happen in their old slogans. Look at this. Back then, they were bragging about numbers, 3 million a day, super functional. But then they pivot. Suddenly it's about the pause that refreshes, or I'd like to buy the world a Coke. See what happened? They stopped selling a soda and started selling a feeling, an experience. And they got so good at this, they didn't just happen to cultural moments. They started creating them. I mean, think about Santa Claus. Seriously. The image we all have in our heads of the big, jolly guy in the red and white suit, Coca-Cola basically invented that. Starting in 1931, their illustrator Haddon Sundblom created that version of Santa for their ads, and they ran with it for decades. They literally helped shape a global icon of Christmas, who, by total coincidence, of course, wears their brand colors. And maybe the peak of all this was that famous Hilltop ad from 1971. The world was a pretty chaotic place then, and Coke drops this ad, which cost a fortune to make, over $1.3 million in today's money, with people from all over the world singing about harmony. And the response was huge. They got over 100,000 letters from people thanking them. They managed to tie a can of soda to this deep, universal hope for peace. Okay, so what happens when you decide to mess with these powerful formulas? Well, in 1985, Coca-Cola made one of the biggest blunders in business history, and in doing so, they accidentally proved just how critical their real secret formulas actually were. Let's talk about the new Coke disaster. So, the story goes like this. Pepsi was gaining ground with their Pepsi Challenge, so Coke panics and decides to change their nearly century-old recipe. They launch New Coke on April 23rd. The public response wasn't just, oh, I don't like it. It was an absolute firestorm of protest. People were furious. For 79 straight days, the company was just buried in outrage until they finally caved on July 11th and brought the original back.
And people took it so personally. They felt genuinely betrayed. I mean, company execs were getting hate mail, like one letter that was just addressed to the chief dodo, the Coca-Cola company. And that's when they realized people weren't just drinking a soda. They were drinking their memories, their childhoods. They had messed with something much bigger than a recipe. But here's the crazy part. Look at what happened next. When they brought back the original, now called Coca-Cola Classic, sales went through the roof. By the end of 1985, Classic wasn't just beating the pants off New Coke, it was crushing Pepsi. Their biggest mistake ever accidentally became their greatest marketing campaign. It proved once and for all that the real value was in the heritage, the emotion, the consistency. So what's the big lesson here? When you look at the whole story, from painting barrels red all the way to the new Coke fiasco, it's an incredible lesson in branding. It's a legacy built on something pretty rare these days, radical, almost stubborn consistency. So let's wrap this up. The new Coke crisis basically proved that people's loyalty was to the brand's heritage, not just the flavor. The real strength, the real formula, is this two-part punch: absolute visual consistency plus a universal emotional connection. That combo is what makes it a blue-chip stock. It's stable, it's reliable, and you can see it in their strategy today. They call it the one-brand strategy, where everything from Diet Coke to Coke Zero sits under that iconic red disc. It's a visual promise that no matter what's inside, the feeling is always the same. And that really leaves us with a big question, doesn't it? In our world where we're all obsessed with innovation and disruption and the next big thing, is it possible that the most powerful, most radical brand strategy of all is to simply never change? Hey, if you enjoyed breaking this down with us, make sure you subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Thanks for watching.